Hey, my name is Mohan, I'm the CMO of Nairon.
My name is Luca, I'm the CEO of Nairon.
Luca, when ChatGPT first came out around 3 to 4 years ago, it was pretty much a category of one.
Definitely.
Now fast forward 3 to 4 years, we have all these new models on the market. You have Claude, you have Gemini, you have Chinese models like DeepSeek. So in this video, break down for us exactly what an AI model is and what should people know in order to make the right decision on what to use, when to use it.
So essentially, the model is the engine behind some of our favorite tools, like ChatGPT, for example. I think it's important to distill this down that the model is the intelligence layer behind all of these tools, right? It's where a lot of the thinking happens, it's where the actual retrieving of information is happening, right? And our favorite tools, like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Cursor and Perplexity that we have here, essentially are just built on top of the models themselves. So for example, ChatGPT is an app that's built on top of the GPT-5 model, for example. And Claude, the app, the co-working space that we like to use on our desktops, that is built on top of the model itself, right? The Claude model, Anthropic's model. And then we have other wrappers that are built by other companies, so not built by the actual labs themselves, like Anthropic and OpenAI, but rather like Perplexity, Cursor. These guys are essentially wrappers. They've built a product on top of the model themselves.
And wrappers are things we'll get into in the next episode as well. For the time being, I think it's just to simplify it, it's a company that uses the model from OpenAI and Anthropic in order to make another more nuanced product.
Yeah, definitely. And so if we look at what all of the model providers are, like what the landscape is, you have really 5 big players here. You have OpenAI, they are essentially the leader in the space. As you can see over here, we have 3 different models. We have the GPT-5, we have the GPT-5 Mini, and the O series. The GPT-5 essentially is the smartest, largest model. The Mini is a smaller model, and we'll get into why there are different models per company. But when looking at the O series is actually their open source model, right? So essentially you can run the model on your own machine. And so looking at the Anthropic models, you obviously know Opus. They also have the Sonnet and Haiku models. Those are smaller models. At Google, they have the Gemini Pro and the Gemini Flash, a very smart model, but then also a very fast model. And then at Meta, they're more open source. They try to do things that's available for any engineer to run and any company to run. And so they have the Ollama and the Llama series. And then you have Grok, right? It's an up and coming AI lab. They're not used as much as the other 4, but still an up and comer in the space.
And so why wouldn't just someone always use the most powerful model? Why do these tiers even exist?
So the tiers exist because the larger, more smarter models are slower and more expensive. And so if you have a very simple task, like you want to clear up a transcript, or you just want to identify a yes or no question from a simple block of text, you would most likely use their cheaper models for that type of stuff. But if you wanted very complex thinking, a complex answer to a plethora of data sources coming in, you would use the biggest model. So here we're looking at Anthropic's 3 models, Haiku being the smallest one, and Opus being the largest one. A lot of people actually use Sonnet as like the daily driver. And also, the biggest difference is the token usage drastically varies between all 3 of them.
And so what kind of mental framework should I use when picking out a model for a specific task?
So the mental model that I like to have is this triangle where you either choose 2 out of the 3 bases of the triangle. You either have the capability or how smart the model is with how expensive it is, but you lose out on speed, or you look at a cheap and fast model, but it's not that smart. And so you can really only have 2 out of the 3 available options. And so when thinking about your task, we like to think about how much intelligence is needed, how quick does this operation need to get done, and how much budget can I set for the specific task.
Obviously, with how fast the space is advancing, you're seeing all these companies release new models, constantly compete with each other. So how can the average consumer know exactly which model is the best at the specific task that they're looking to get done?
So in order for you to really understand which model to use for which use case, you would essentially need to look at like a leaderboard. And so we love to use arena.ai. It's essentially a table similar to this one. This is a simplified version, but it essentially shows you in writing, these models are out competing, and they're done by peer-reviewed literature. So A bunch of testers are voting on, what has the best outcomes. In general, the models are pretty good, and perhaps we don't need to really stress too much about this. This was the case more about 2 years ago, where you really had to know this because there was such a big difference between the models. And so the larger labs are essentially building tools on top of the models to differentiate themselves rather than the intelligence of the models themselves.
Like wrappers.
Of course.
And so guys, we'll cover wrappers much more in depth in the next video. In the meantime, you can subscribe to our newsletter, links down in the description below. You can also find us on LinkedIn, where we're very, very active. And we'll see you next time.